Recording in progress.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Long time no see.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So you pretty busy.
Oh yeah. I stay pretty busy.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to be respectful of your time. I will advise you that I am recording this interview,
Okay.
and I can definitely provide you with a copy.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. If you could send me the link, that'd be dope.
Yep. And then I'm definitely going to write up the article today, and then I will send you a copy. And then if you have an opportunity, review it. Tell me if you think it's okay or what you don't like, what I need to change before I send it to the editor. I have
Okay.
to send him tomorrow.
You got to send it tomorrow. Okay.
I have to send it to him tomorrow.
All right.
So I'll write it right after this, and then we'll have the whole day today and to look it over.
Okay.
But it's only 12. It's only going to be 1,200 words. So
A couple pages.
yeah, I'll see what I can get into that. Right. And then what I want to ask you is, do you have certain images that you want me to include?
I figure based on our conversation, I would send over images, not really knowing what we was gonna specifically talk about.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So let me start. Are you ready?
Yep. I'm ready.
Okay. So thanks for this interview. You had an opportunity to look at Code M magazine. Um, it is a very nice magazine. I don't know if you can see copy.
Oh,
I
yep.
did,
Yeah, I
I
can see
did
it.
send you the link. Yeah. Um, Great viewership. They are growing. They are local. Two brothers decided to get together. One's a retired fireman, or so, and then he decided to go off into highlighting black men in our community because
Okay.
there are so many publications that don't tell the story, right? So I applaud them on that. My first question to you um, is centered around your personal journey. How can you share your journey into photography and what inspired you to pursue it?
How could I share my journey
Yeah.
in photography? How can I? Well, ultimately, my personal journey as a person and as an artist is depicted through my photography. Like my photography is a representation of my personal journey.
Okay. That's good.
So I guess this one of the strongest ways I've been able to share that is the murals in the neighborhood. People see the father and son playing chess and they identify with it in whatever ways that they do. But my dad used to come play me in chess as a 6 year old child in the middle of the night. So the work is almost a literal documentation and expression of my personal journey. And my pursuit as an artist is for me to be able to continue to discover these images in my work.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
That's a piece I did not know.
You probably don't know, you might not know as much because I didn't know.
Right. But that's art, right? That's art
Yeah,
is the
yeah,
opportunity to express that, right?
exactly.
The unknown that you don't know and what you do find out.
Yep, yep.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. So, so like my next question was, what shaped you in your art, specifically photography? But you just answered that question, right?
What shaped me?
Yeah.
Um, what was the rest of the question? What shaped me and what?
What has shaped you photography to show your art?
Um, so what shaped me is the people that I was born around, the environment that I grew up in, my ability to navigate the environment that I was in, but also being able to get to a place where I could be working on expressing myself daily. Photography is not my only art discipline. Photography is the discipline that most people think that they're familiar with when it comes to me as an artist.
Okay.
Yeah, I got 15 flutes. I've been teaching myself how to play the trumpet. I play the harmonica. I draw daily. Like, drawing is the foundation for me as an artist, not photography. Photography is just what I use to focus how I was going to turn being an artist into a life. But, you know, photography is one of the tools that I use as an artist, but it's not exclusive to photography. See, a lot of people met me somehow visibly in the art world or at a show, at an exhibition, and what tends to happen is people tend to identify you by how they saw you or met you. And my experience as an artist in Cleveland has not been an experience that has fostered me fully expressing myself publicly. But the artist that like my what shaped me is being born to two parents who always was drawing. My parents both draw. My mom does construction. She uses and works with her hands on a daily basis and has since I was a child. My dad is someone who was always making things when he was a kid and as an adult. So I would I would imagine that what shaped me is my parents' desire to express themselves with their hands, coupled with the need for artistic expression based on the life experience that I was having as a child.
Hmm. I'm glad that you clarified that because I was careful to make certain that I say artist,
Yeah.
and that photography was one form of your expression.
Yep.
Um, so I'm glad to hear that,
Oh yeah,
and
I've been
and the,
doing
and the
textile.
backstory.
Yeah, I've been doing textile printing since I was 22. You know, I function in all of the mediums, but I have since I was a child. I recognize that the need to express in multiple outlets was something that was being fostered at Cleveland School of the Arts. So even after graduating from Cleveland School of the Arts, after finishing college in photography, I went and bought me a flute. I've been playing the flute since I was 4. Since I was in the 4th grade. So I went out of school, I went and recreated as much as I could that I had access to when I was a child because I didn't know what life would be like without my ability to practice and express myself creatively. So I never wanted to experience what it would be like without it. So I just continued to stay in the routines that had started being developed for me as early as 9 years old.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
They was trying to make me see myself as a photographer. And I
Mm.
was trying to see myself as a photographer. But I recognized that I didn't fit the my own perception of what a photographer is.
Mm.
Yeah, I didn't want any of the jobs that were available to me being a photographer because the
It
jobs
wasn't.
didn't
It
wouldn't
wasn't you.
yeah, it wouldn't the jobs wouldn't allow me to express myself. The jobs would have allowed me to express my technical abilities for whoever else's um, motives and purposes.
Yeah, I get it. That's okay. All right. All right. Let me. So your work often reflects, and you correct me if I'm wrong, raw, authentic portrayal of Black life. What stories do you seek to tell through your photography or through your art? I'm going to just say art. I'm not going to use the word photography anymore. I'm just going to say art.
What stories?
Yes.
Um, the stories that I express as an artist are the stories that are familiar to me as a person, familiar to me based on the people around me, but also the stories that don't get told and don't get expressed. You know, I'm often the person telling people who are an artist to figure out what their secret world is and be a representative of that world and express the stories that are familiar but also unfamiliar to outsiders to that world. That's the advice that I give to myself. So, I mean, so, you know, raw, authentic um, images. I mean, I guess for me, the the truth is something that has been embedded in me since I was a child. From telling the truth, which turned into trying to find and seek the truth. As an artist, I try to represent what is true to me or what's true to people around me. Um, that might be where the raw or authentic part comes. I didn't really know that being an artist and becoming an artist and functioning as an artist would come with the um, requirement of being able to be myself. Um, but once I did realize that, that's been probably my number one goal is to be able to be myself and to be able to express that through my work.
Mm-hmm. So one of the exhibitions or pieces of work that I do connect with was you taking out time to um, shoot images of the foreclosure crisis here.
Yeah.
Um, that I think was an example of a story that no one really in this city, I'm going to say in the state, really wanted to tackle the way that you tackled that issue to bring light so that it would create conversation and potentially have some impact on the actual issue. It seemed a bit as if others would gloss over it as a big problem, but did not really have any type of solution. Um, so I see that that was really bold and raw and authentic way that you took in and said, here's the true picture of what's going on. This is what it looks like.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's interesting being an artist because to be yourself and express yourself, it doesn't always come with these desired outcomes that people receive from what you made. I didn't photograph foreclosure because I recognized it as a crisis that would reveal itself as an American crisis to bring light to the truth of what's going on, right?
Mm,
That
okay.
that wasn't the intention.
Okay.
See, what I've learned is the personal becomes the universal. I was going to the abandoned buildings and houses with my mom since I was a child because my mom is a construction lady.
Mm,
I've been in abandoned houses since I was a kid. So at the time where the foreclosure crisis is really revealing itself, for me personally and artistically, I was just wanting to take pictures of what I didn't take pictures of when I was a child. So my mom would always call me and say, "Hey, you got to see what's in this house. You got to come and see this." Or I just went in this house that's on this street, or I just went in this house on this street, or can you come over here because I'm about to take the boards off and I'm about to kind of go in and see the conditions to see if I need to see if we can pull this out of the foreclosure or forfeiture. So I grew up in the houses. So in 2008, when I'm trying to see myself in my work, I instantly recognized that that was something that I was very familiar with that I hadn't been taking pictures of. And as I'm taking pictures of the houses that my mom are in, I'm already looking at houses we've worked on, houses I've worked on, houses that I've lived in. Then it started to reveal itself to me that this was a national crisis, you know? And I recognized that artists were using foreclosed homes as a gimmick to bring spotlight to themselves. When I recognized that it was a gimmick, I started to be able to see the difference between what I was doing and what other people was doing, which was I was in the houses. I was in the houses because being in the houses was something that was familiar to me. But then a lot of people don't know that for me to go and photograph the abandoned houses um, on my own, just to photograph and document what's left behind in the houses, or the fact that if you a kid growing up in Cleveland in 2008, all you looking at is abandoned houses. All you looking at is boarded up homes. Um, I got a phone call from a billionaire who wanted to extort the mayor and to create a book and documentation of what was going on in the city. So after I had been documenting foreclosure probably for about 6, maybe 7 years, an old white guy's paying me $1,000 a day to drive around the entire city of Cleveland. So the accumulation of images on foreclosed homes is 100 times larger than what it started out as, 100 times larger than what people had ever seen if they seen me show the work in an exhibition. Because mind you, galleries, museums, they have an agenda. Their agenda is kind of prescribed based on their perception of what's hot at the time, right? So once that's hot, then there's a couple of shows on foreclosure, and then once it's no longer hot, it goes away for the people who are curating the shows and curating the exhibitions. It no longer serves them. So at the time when I'm photographing foreclosure, I'm also learning how the art world works, and I'm starting to understand how and if I can participate in the ways that it functions. So the crazy part about it is the body of work is significantly larger than anyone has ever seen, because I drove the entire city being paid $5,000 a week from a billionaire, from Miles Heights to Lakeshore daily for an undisclosed amount of days. So my experience as an artist has been a very unique experience because I haven't been able to function, participate like, artists that have visibility. I've created my own visibility in very, very non-traditional ways, and in ways that no one would ever assume or imagine. I mean, because it's unexplainable how I've been able to continue to pursue being an artist. But experiences like meeting a random billionaire who handed me a $5,000 check, and then months and months later is still paying me $1,000 a day to photograph something that I'd been volunteering to photograph on my own, is unspeakable. But it wasn't to highlight the neighborhoods per se. I recognize what it does after the work is made, but as an artist, we follow our impulses. And when we follow our impulses, it usually turns out that our intuition is connected to something a little more universal than our own experiences. That's what I've been finding. I didn't know it was going to speak to everybody, because I didn't know that it was a foreclosure crisis hitting America. I didn't know that Slavic Village was going to be ground zero. I didn't know that The director of Slavic Village at the time recognized that they were in a crisis 10 or 11 years prior to, the 2008. Those kind of things started to be revealed to me after I followed my gut, kind of telling me that my experience had value or had merit. That's why I pursued photographing it. And then it like revealed or unfolded this whole world of people and experiences being able to relate and connect to losing their homes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm glad that we're having this conversation because you're revealing a lot that, as you say, when someone looks at you as an artist, they don't understand. They really have to sit down and have a conversation with you to understand you, the person, and what actually impacts um, your life and your journey have had on what you are actually creating. And then having the opportunity to explain that, as you say, in a unfiltered way without any interruptions. And when I say interruptions, I'm thinking about the world,
Yep.
right? And allowing you to give it to someone raw, which I'm just now experiencing because I had no clue.
Yeah.
And that's powerful.
And I
Very
can tell you this, like true artistic expression, artists who are really on the journey of discovering and becoming like a full self, an actual human being with self-actualization, growth, development, technically, conceptually, we become our most valuable work of art.
powerful.
Like in the pursuit to make things, right, outside of ourselves, we start to develop and become, we start to make and construct ourself. Like I am the work of art. I didn't always understand that. So like it doesn't matter what I'm doing, it doesn't matter what the tool is. It's I am the thing that is doing the expressing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that can we talk about the work? And I'm just going to bring this up. Pretty Eyes.
You said the work of Pretty Eyes?
Yes.
Who is Pretty Eyes?
So I and maybe I have this incorrect. Remember, you were at one time were doing the t-shirts, the textiles,
Yep.
and you remember the one image where you had the young girl with the dreads and her eyes. The focus was really on the eyes,
Mm.
and maybe I have the name of the work wrong, but I thought there was a piece that you had was Pretty Eyes.
It might have been. I'm trying to remember
I,
because
and I'm going back, so you see how long ago
yeah,
I'm
because
following you.
I'm trying to see the image um, of just the eyes screen printed.
Yeah, and she has the dreads, and also you had a
Yeah, I know exactly the image you're talking about.
you do.
Yep,
Okay, okay.
because her head is back.
Yes.
Yep.
What's behind that piece of work? Where were you at that moment in time?
Um, so that I was lost at that time.
Okay,
Oh yeah,
okay,
I was walking around backwards with my eyes closed, and I hadn't even pulled my hands out my pocket yet.
okay. So,
I was at a place where I was at the beginning of unlearning what I was being taught in college. And I was taking pictures for no reason, trying to discover where I was supposed to be in what I was supposed to be doing as an artist. So, and that time period. I mean, that was with that photo shoot. I'm just thinking that photograph is probably from about 2005 maybe. Where I just was shooting some portraits of people who wanted to be in front of the camera when I was not living in Cleveland. And I saw my photography as a wonderful display of technical exercises. And I was being told that I needed to photograph more white people. And I didn't see myself represented in my work. So that was that time period.
Here's the ironic piece to that question that I had. Code M Magazine is about, their tagline is transforming the lives of men.
Okay.
So I'm thinking about just that story you had, your work. You just explained that your work is you, right?
Yep.
And you just explained from me bringing up a piece of work that you designed years ago.
20.
Right?
Yeah.
That I have been familiar with, that I still have. That, and over time, you have actually gone through a transformation process.
100%. The artist journey is a transformation process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there highlights in that journey, that transformation journey, that you can share with the readers of this magazine in terms of a takeaway?
100%. I mean, if we going from Donald Black Jr. in Jersey City, going to Manhattan every day, to Donald Black Jr. in Cleveland, putting up murals 40 feet big. I mean, the journey, the highlights from the journey. What are the highlights from the journey? Okay, so I didn't know who I was. I recognized it because I could see it missing from my work, even though I didn't know what it was. I thought part of who I was lost in the relationship, lost in the lack of relationship with my father. I was scared that my friends and family would die or get murdered, and I wouldn't have photographs of them. So I moved back to Cleveland. I got all my cameras taken. I worked with about 10,000 young people with the camera. I worked at about 50 different art-based organizations. I quit all of the jobs. I met a heck of a art education director that I married. I was beat up by the Cleveland police. I quit all my jobs. I learned the art world, all of the art foundations, the money, how they work. I had the goal of becoming a player in the art world, and I've done that. I've shown my work in several museums. I was told that I had to die in order to do that. I was told that I wouldn't make it in upper level photography classes with pictures of my friends, but I've won international competitions with pictures of my friends. I tried to figure out how to enter the formal art world. It didn't make sense to me to try to be somewhere where we don't go. So I started putting my images up big in the neighborhood, and I've developed 100 terabytes, 5 million images, 250,000 videos, 10,000 notes, probably about 150,000 voice memos of, notes and ideas. I've exhibited, 150 times. I don't know. It's a heck of a, it's been a heck of a transformation, and I was surrounded by hundreds of people. I don't talk to anybody. I don't use a cell phone, so I'm as focused and as clear as I was when I was a child. But it started off in my 20s with me being lost.
Mm.
I got a foundation now for myself that I could have never dreamed of,
Yeah.
and an understanding of myself that used to terrify me.
Mm.
And I lost the cousin that I was scared would get murdered. And I lost my dad, who I was scared that one of us would pass and we wouldn't know each other. Um, yeah, like I kind of moved back to Cleveland because I didn't want to be the guy, the good kid, turned into the young man who could make it out, who was out, who would visit for funerals, and to be in pursuit of a false sense of success that I was taught to pursue. And moving back, I kind of got ahead of about 12 or 13 years for losing two people who I was scared to lose before I moved back to Cleveland in my 20s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So
Talk about transformation.
that is great, though. Wait
It,
till I show you the notes.
yeah, it's amazing.
That is an amazing story.
It's been a hell of a journey.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm like inner city kid gone good, turned into angry black man because the places that wanted me there because I wasn't gonna flip over the tables as a child was the same places that if I go now, everybody put their head down. Like I call myself a glitch in the system. They were not trying to, they wasn't trying to make me. You know what I'm saying? Like I was born in the projects, arguably left for dead more than one time. You know what I'm saying? And I can remember before my father passed away, what he said to me is, "Man, son, you've come a long way." And when he said it, it was overwhelming to me because as much as me being a angry or feeling hurt teenager whose dad wasn't around him, when he said that to me in my, late 30s, when I looked at him, I said, "Wow, like, and you really, and he really knew." It's been amazing. It's been an amazing ride. I can say that. Like to say the first person to hold me in life, tell me I've come so far, for me to be able to have a glimpse of what he could see was unspeakable.
Wow. You just expressed a story that I think is unique in itself, right? Because we all have our own uniqueness. And I think what I appreciate is I'm able to connect because you're okay with your journey. You're okay with your story. You're okay with who you are. Like you say, you have found yourself. Um, Knowing that, I now see that you have on IG. I see the Uncut School. Am I saying that correct?
Uncut Art School.
Uncut Art School. What was behind all of that? How did you create that?
So I've been teaching art classes since I was 6. And I was the kid who anything that I was learning, I was trying to show all the people around me. And as a kid, I thought I was just trying to teach them how to draw. In hindsight, I realized I was trying to share what seemed to make people think that I was different or what made people think that I was special. Because whatever made me different or whatever made people think I was special, it was isolating me from everybody else. I was experiencing a lot of envy and jealousy for being myself at a very, very early age. I was the one hurting the curve, like, so if everybody was doing bad and nobody was listening, I was the one making it apparent that it was possible for people to listen and be well behaved and be good, right? So I would teach everybody around me how to do the stuff I was doing. That turned into a life of me trying to teach and explain to people what I was learning, because what I learned early on is anything that I taught or tried to teach helped me learn it better. So Uncut Art School kind of came about because I found myself in sporadic ways, at least about 10 to 20 different conversations with artists, creative people who seem to be struggling, trying to figure it out, right? Figure out how to make it, figure out what to make, how to grow, how to develop, how to self actualize, how to tap into their full potential. And I would get these random phone calls or conversations from people all the time, from as young as middle school kids all the way to retired adults who are trying to pursue being an artist after they done already spent their whole life doing something that they hate. So I started trying to figure out how could I continue to engage with a lot of people who call me and email me and ask for advice and ask for tips and want to hear the story and trying to figure out how not to quit. How could I feel less distracted being in 20 different conversations? So what I did is I kind of me and Allie had a conversation about me assembling a group of people that I have been currently in about 8 conversations separately with, and to get everybody in the same conversation as a way to focus, and also as a way to organize my artist journey, my artistic experience, the insight that I've acquired, the knowledge that I've developed. I I had a desire a couple years ago to see it more formally than I had seen it prior. You know, I could talk, I could share it. The stuff just comes out of me. It's like oozing out of me. But I didn't have I didn't have my own knowledge organized in a way that I could pick it up and look at the chapters. I couldn't pass out the chapters. I didn't know, I didn't have frameworks. I didn't even know what a framework was a couple years ago when I started kind of envisioning that I could organize the knowledge and the experience that I've accumulated so it can be accessible to people and educators who are around the world of art expression and art education. So that's where Uncut Art School came from, is because I had already been in a community of people, a community of artists who are on the artist journey or afraid of the artist journey, who I was already fussing at. You know, I was already yelling at the people around me about what excuses that they making and the habits that they won't break. And about 2 years ago, I started formalizing it. You know, I started creating a weekly engagement with one group of people um, in an effort to help them develop, but primarily in an effort to help me organize my artist journey and the insights that I've developed along the journey.
Mm. How has that impacted this community? And I'm going to say community because I can't define community. You would have to define community for me.
How has it impacted the community inside of Uncut Art School? Or
Yes.
okay, um, if I'm thinking about what they express in terms of how it's impacting them, it's very much a group of people feeling like they're experiencing much needed conversation and dialogue around the development of self that they didn't know that they were running from. Um, it's grown into like a small family of people. Um, they express to us how lost they feel they would be without it, based on life circumstances that some of the people in the group have experienced since we've been meeting. So they say, you know, without coming and meeting at this blue pool table that we meet at, um, they would have went off the deep end in losing some family members in the last couple years. Um, so it's been extremely impactful. I mean, and my my take on how they're impacted is personal responsibility and personal accountability is something that's slapping everybody in the face. You know, when these people engage with me outside of us meeting in Uncut Art School, or Uncut Mondays is when we meet on Mondays, um, they didn't understand why I see the things that I can see and why I understand the things that I understand. Um, but once they kind of made the commitment to show up every Monday for, more than a year now, they're like, oh, this is why you can see all of this stuff. Yeah, I identify with everything that I can see. I recognize the places that sometimes we get lost inside of ourselves. So the artist journey, I'm kind of like in a group of people who are kind of at the beginning of seeing that there's a journey to take. And I'm sharing my own personal experiences of the places that I can identify with, and then also highlighting some of the places and areas that I can't identify with. I am this group recognized that there is a path that can be taken if
Okay.
the choice personally is made. And they also recognize and understand that they know at least one person who's never veered from the path or the journey, never stepped off of it for 1 second. Um, I care to communicate and share that it's possible to never make unnecessary mistakes. I'm a firm believer if you can just grow out of unnecessary mistakes, there's a whole nother phase of mistakes to make that are necessary to make.
Exactly.
So it ain't that you ain't gonna make no mistakes. But it's a whole nother tier of mistakes that you had to make to learn the lesson and to develop the knowledge that's there for you to accumulate. Like, so we can just go on and skip all these unnecessary ones, all these mistakes that the people around us that made. We can go on and just not make those. Let's just go on and say, I'm learning the lesson that you learned through the experience that you had, so I don't have to make that mistake. So go on and give me the mistake that I gotta make that ain't nobody made, that so I can develop some knowledge and wisdom around it. So it's a lot that the group expresses that they're getting from it.
So, okay, so now I'm seeing you smile, and what's behind that smile? Because I think that you're the what's creating that is what some of the experiences you've had with this group, right?
Well, what's creating the smile is the group is one rare occasion where I'm being asked to be my full self. And I feel joy when I'm being my full self, just in general, so it just, oftentimes I'm the guy that walks in the room and then I can read the energy to where it's kind of like, oh yeah, I don't want to make nobody uncomfortable, no more uncomfortable than they may already be. So when I picture environments that I'm in, that I frequent, because I had to change how I was moving, I had to change the places that I was in. I don't really find myself outside of places where I can't be my full self comfortably. And we meet at my house. So when I'm thinking about meeting and talking to the group, as much as, I'm always trying to make sure I'm not tipping anyone over. I recognize and can see vulnerability, which is not something that I could always see. So as much as we talk, I'm able to be myself in the room. Um, And when I'm able to be myself, like my full self, I'm like excited about like who I am, what I do, so much so that it makes me laugh really whenever I'm talking about any of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. 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 That's good. That's good. Can you what role do you think art plays in shifting societal narratives about the black community?
What role do I think art plays in shifting societal narratives about the black community? I don't think it plays a role in shifting it.
Okay.
I believe that the art that we experience, majority of what we're experiencing in terms of art, is constructing narratives of the black community that need to be shifted. See, I think art has been used as a weapon against the black community with not enough people fighting on behalf of the black community to counter the narratives that are being weaponized against us.
Mm.
You know, like I don't think it is playing as significant a role of shifting narratives as we need.
Mm.
But I don't believe that society is uh, perpetuating the growth and the development of real artists coming from our communities. Because the artist is one sector of people who could really shift the narratives.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think we express narratives individually or in small collectives that represent how we see ourselves as black people, but I don't believe it's enough of us yet shifting. I don't really think we even understand as a whole community the narratives that have been constructed against us,
Right.
let alone being an artist, being someone who's been identified as good or gifted or special, you know, or some level of an anomaly, to say, I'm going to reject all the opportunities that come with the privilege of being seen as an artist, and I'm going to try to shift the societal narratives that are damaging the perception that the black community has of itself.
Of itself.
You know?
Yeah. I can identify with that.
Yeah, I think art is one of those areas that has been used as a weapon against the black community from a societal standpoint. You know,
The
from a,
same as
yeah.
other media,
Yeah, the whole system.
the whole system.
The
Right.
whole system of it. You know, the visual artists are accepted as long as they are a complementary component to something else.
Yeah.
The music artists are accepted as long as they are complementary to something bigger than the music that they're making. Like it's like society has turned um, art into something for people to consume and collect, when what's needed is for art to be experienced,
Mm-hmm.
and for what is being represented and communicated through any art medium is uh high level technical execution of a self. You know, but oftentimes we trade money oftentimes for ourselves.
For ourselves, not realizing that currency.
Yeah, we don't know. We think the money is the most valuable thing. We don't realize that we are the valuable thing. That's why money is easily traded for ourselves.
Yes. I connect with you on that one.
Yeah.
And the minute we can get that, make that shift,
Yep.
oh my God, watch out.
Yep. Yep.
Watch out.
And then
Watch
it's
out.
it's something that I was talking to with the group. It's something that I was reading. It was talking about geniuses, right? And I interchange genius and artist because when I'm looking at what seems to be universal definitions of either one of those identities, I recognize that they seem to be kind of synonymous. So when I'm reading this post or something that I saw, it talked about some test being done to see how many geniuses they would find in a group of children, right? So they do the
Okay.
test and they realize when they do the study, 98 children are classified as genius. What classified them as a genius was their ability to use their imagination to to creatively solve problems. That's what identified them as geniuses. That's it. That's the criteria. Your ability to use your imagination to creatively solve problems. That's what makes you a genius. Well, what I'm here to tell you is your ability to use your creative imagination to solve problems is what makes you an artist. It's what made me wrap my father's casket when he passed away. Because I already had the printer, I already had the photographs. So the problem that I was experiencing was the loss of my father, who I moved back to Cleveland 13 years prior because I wanted to get to know him before he passed away.
Right.
I used my creative imagination to solve the problem that I foreseen coming possibly. And then once the problem was in front of me, I, for 12 years, 13 years, developed myself to my best ability to be able to creatively problem solve in that problem. So I wrapped my father's casket. And my father couldn't read, but I read my father's eulogy. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I had to conduct the funeral. So I put the funeral on cedar because everybody around him needed to be able to walk to see him. You know what I'm saying? Like use the use of the creative imagination to solve a problem. So when they did the study, when these children were teenagers, 30% of the children were considered geniuses, or 30% of the children were considered artists. So from 5 years old to 15 years old, 70% of people are being conditioned to no longer use their imagination to creatively solve problems. So the study was a bust. Everybody was disappointed. So then they said, well, let's just go talk to a bunch of adults and see how many adults are considered geniuses. So they go interview however many adults. 2% of adults fit the description of a genius based on the definition being their ability to use their imagination to creatively problem solve. So 98% of people walking around have been conditioned through school to no longer use their imagination to creatively solve problems. So if black people make up whatever percent of that 98% of adults walking around who've been conditioned not to use their imagination to creatively solve problems, it means we don't really have a whole lot of people who are prepared and who have been developed to a point to help solve the problem.
Yeah.
And fight against the societal narratives that are constructed against the black communities. Is why I say we don't have enough people fighting against the narratives, yeah, that have been actually developed. We don't have the shift. The shift is possible, but when you ask me, I think the shift is possible if we really start to focus on the 14 and unders, because it's a larger population of the 14 and unders who still use their imagination to solve problems.
To solve problems.
Yeah.
Wow. 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 That's something. But it is true.
Yep.
And you can use that across our lives, right?
Yep.
There's so many examples. So, and being respectful of your time, um, can you share any specific project or pieces of work that directly speaks to the theme of transformation? This is a two question statement. And then when someone looks at your work, when the audience looks at your work, or when the audience reads this article and sees some of your work, what is the main takeaway you would like for them to have?
So I can answer the second part question first because it's a shorter answer, even though it might create another question. But when people are experiencing my work, I'm usually my what's going into it for me is look at this in this way. That's it. Look at this in this way. Because those are the two things that I've grown to understand are two of my primary motives. Going to school, being in college, being around a lot of white folks in terms of being in terms of art, I recognized that it was important for me to see myself and the people around me reflected in the work. Or to see where I come from represented in the work. Look at this, right? But then the training, the development, the growth technically within the medium of drawing and photography causes me to say, but I want you to look at what I'm showing you, and I want you to see it in a way that people who are considered on the highest level of these mediums are saying it. Or I want you to see what I'm saying in ways that you've never seen it said before. Because what happened is I can remember showing my portfolio to black folks. Same portfolio I would show to white folks. White folks telling me take more pictures of white people. Black people saying, man, who is this person? They must be famous. Because the way you photographed them, they got to be somebody of importance. So what I learned was they want to see themselves photographed in the way that they already see themselves as important. We need to see ourselves in ways that we don't see ourselves enough, which is important. And I recognize that the technical approach to any art discipline is what helps people's perception of seeing something as valuable. If I could take a blurry, out of focus picture with no contrast, with no sense of lighting, with underdeveloped composition and all these underdeveloped techniques, and whatever I took a picture of didn't stand a chance of being seen as valuable. But if I can grow, develop, and train and research and fail and try again over and over and over again to get better at my technical ability to express something, once my subject is myself, the people around me, what's familiar to me, now myself, the people around me, what's familiar to me, stands a chance of being seen as valuable to us. I argue with the photographers who say we need to show them who we are. I say no. They know who we are. We don't know who we are. They already know our value, because they didn't put 31 cents on the cigarettes we smoke to exchange some of that monetary value. They come into our neighborhoods and make millions of dollars throughout a career, being in front of us to teach us. They run the prisons where we sit at 5 figures per inmate per month. They understand our value. We don't understand our value, is my argument to some of these, world famous photographers that I've sat in debates with. We don't see ourselves as value because we need to see ourselves in the right light. You know what I'm saying? In the right way, with the right exposure, in the right portfolio, with the on the archival paper. You know what I'm saying? So that's the answer to the first part of the second part of the question.
Okay,
And
that's good.
repeat the first question again.
Is can you share any specific project or pieces that directly speak directly to the theme of transformation?
So, what piece or what project speaks to transformation? Well, so it's a show up at the airport now,
Yes.
and that show is um, While the Truth Unfolds. And this show represents transformation. All of the I could pick anything and it all represents transformation because I can remember what got me to being able to create or produce whatever it is that I made. What got me there. But that show specifically, I can remember the images that are in the show while the truth unfolds. I can remember when they didn't exist. Not one of them. I can remember wishing that these images existed. So we going 15 years. I can remember thinking that my work was a wonderful display of technical exercises, that it didn't grapple with any complex concepts. I didn't see where I come from or myself represented in the work. I can remember 15 years ago sitting with that. No matter what people were saying about my work. Oh, it's amazing. Okay, that amazing don't help me grow. You know? Oh, you need to take more pictures of white people. Okay, well, unconstructive criticism doesn't help me grow either. I can remember wanting to shift myself, my perception of myself, the environment that I was in, the people that I was around. I can remember wanting to shift that in a way that would allow me to discover the images that are in that exhibition at the airport. Because at some point I realized in my 20s that no matter who hired me, nobody was ever going to send me back to Cleveland to photograph the world that I represent. So I sent myself. And 15 years ago, I was trying to guess at what they wanted me to show. And when I was trying to guess what they wanted me to show, it was based on me studying what the institutions showcase. And somebody I've been photographing since I was 13 years old is in the show right now.
Wow.
And what he walked up to me and he said was, "This is the first show that has been a picture of me in," is what he said. This is a 30-year-old friend who I've been taking pictures of for the last 30 years.
Wow.
So me not knowing who I am allowed me not to express who I am 15 years ago. I was trying to be seen, seek validation based on me being conditioned to think that's what success was.
Right.
15 years later, I recognize that success to me is the people around me seeing themselves as a part of of what I've been doing as an artist, because secretly I know that they're a part of it. To myself, I know that they're a part of it. But I hadn't gotten to a point where, prior to this show, I hadn't really gotten to a point where I wanted to show images that nobody had seen versus showing images that hold me in a certain light, you know?
Oh, yes.
You know, these popular pictures, you know, these
Yes.
what some people would consider, or what I consider, my money shots. But I know I got 100,000 money shots. And I went through a period of saying these places have ulterior motives who let me in to show my work, when I'm talking about people outside of our communities, right? So I didn't want to get, I didn't want to, I didn't want my work to be undervalued by showing too much of it if I had to play the game. I kind of picked about 10, 15 pictures that I would let like lead the charge into my visibility into the art world. And I was kind of holding close and saving and protecting all these much more valuable images to me. You know, when I'm looking at photographs and I have to submit them, right? And I'm hearing submit in multiple ways. When I listen to the critiques, when I listen to the rejections, I don't only see a piece of paper with an image on it being rejected. You know, I see us being rejected.
Rejected.
I
Right.
see the people around me, my experiences, our experiences. I'm experiencing rejection on a few levels. So I kind of, for a while, would only kind of go into this kind of fight where I am willing to submit with what I knew they couldn't deny. So if it got denied, I knew it was a problem with the place and not a problem with me. So the transformation that has taken place is I accept where me, the work, the people around me, I accept where we are not welcome, where we don't, where they don't want us. You know, I've grown into much more being interested in where we're supposed to be. You know, I thought out was a place and I was in pursuit of out, and I found myself in and around a lot of institutions that didn't seem to really do a good job of getting us there to show up. And I'm in shows where ain't nobody that I know getting a postcard in their mailbox to these shows. So it just kind of made me question why I want to be there so bad if that ain't even where we at.
Yep.
So, you know, my hat go off to the airport for the second show, because I'm reminded that it's places where we at, and it's places where we all at, where we overlap, like significantly overlap. So, and when I had to pick the images for that show, I wasn't anxious, I wasn't biting my nails, I wasn't frustrated, I wasn't in my head thinking of, I didn't have to strategize. I was able to pick 40 images and say, here go the 40 images. You know, out of the 40 images, the most aggressive image got censored, you know? And I was trying to see where the line was at, and I saw where, you know, I seen where the line was at, but I definitely had to see
Yes.
because I recognize that I've learned who my audience is.
Right.
Let's say that that's part of that transformation. Is in college when they said who's your audience, I said everybody who look at it. Well, if you ask me who my audience is right now, my audience is the people who would be in the audience with me at an event somewhere that I found myself in the audience. That's who my audience is. The
That's
people
who
that
you
I,
are.
I share the audience with,
Yes.
which has
Yeah.
been that's been a heck of a transformation.
Yes. But it's one that makes you smile. That's what's key.
Well,
That's what I'm experiencing so far.
oh, because for me the goal has always been to figure it out. So to continuously be able to figure out is something to celebrate.
Right.
You know, the truth and reality is not something that bothers me. You know,
Yes.
I can even accept what I can't figure out
Right.
because I figured out that I can't figure it out. So, you know, I go past that.
Well, listen, this has been good. I'm going to be respectful. I know you're a busy man, but I mean, this has been a great interview. I'm glad that I was able to reconnect with you in this way, right?
Yeah,
I'm glad that I got a chance to listen to you and hear the back part of the story, you,
yeah,
that I haven't had a chance to. And now I get a chance to actually send this message out to many through this magazine. Just to share with you, this magazine had been thinking about the inclusion of art in its publication, but no one brought it to their attention or no one stepped up to actually do it. I just organically had a conversation with the owner just through friendship. And I said, you know, I read this magazine, but for some reason, I don't see no black art. I don't see no art.
got you.
What's going on with that? If you're covering transformation, if you're talking about black men, you're trying to uplift us, but you're also including women. Where is that? And he said, well, why don't you take out some time and write it? And I was like, oh, wait a minute. You got a point there because I'm a lover of art. I love it. I know what stories are behind it. I think I've been advocating for artists for some time,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And to now take this on, I can only be so excited that I have you. I have you as the first artist that we will have in this publication, and that there will be a story um, centered around you. I have personal experience with you and your work. I have personal experience in understanding how you have gone through your transformation.
Yeah.
So that's good. And then we are in the same circles per se in terms of individuals that we know. Um, when we started, I was talking about images. How do you want to go about providing me with images?
I can send you how should I do? I can send you a Google link
Okay.
and I'll put images in there based on some of what we talked about. So maybe some images from the show, images, couple image murals, couple of significant photographs that
Okay.
kind of popped in
Okay.
my head when we were talking.
Right. Okay. Okay. That's good. And then, like I said, I'm gonna write up what I can today, um, and then send that to you, and then you look at it and you give me the light, the okay, or what? Tell me whatever changes need to be made, and then we'll come up with a final copy that you're okay with, and then I'll send it off to the editor.
Okay, that works.
All right.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Yep.
Appreciate you, and
Yep.
I'll send you a copy of this recording too.
Okay. Yep. Appreciate it.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Enjoy your day.
Yep. You too. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
All right. All right. That wasn't bad. That was not bad. Oh yeah. Good audio still.